welcome in everybody, wherever you are, however you may be listening. This is your Wednesday wrap-up, and of course, while we were off air, Herb was telling me about this tight end coming to his program to save the day, and it just seemed like a hilarious way to start this show off. So tell us more about your savior at tight end.
I'm texting because I'm clearly missing something, and it's a discussion point for tonight. So I hope Justin doesn't tune in real quick so I can talk about this and not get in trouble.
I mean, you didn't have to call him out.
Yeah. Well, okay. So the guy played. He was recruited to Mississippi State as a tackle. Didn't play really that first year. Transferred to South Alabama. Quit the team in August. Was going to retire, just enter the workforce. And now he's been recruited here, and his bio and his position on the thing says tight end. I'm just confused. That's like I don't, and it's a discussion piece. So I'm trying to do my research and look up and see what I'm missing, and I'm just thinking, I don't know. He's an offensive tackle who didn't play really for 2 years and hasn't played since August at least, and now is a tight end. And we have 4 tight ends already, including 2 that we just recruited out of high school that people are really excited about. And Raj's boy Cuevas from last year, who showed promise. We just didn't use our tight ends enough. Now we're going to use our tight ends more this year, but I don't know what the 5th one brings to the table.
He is a blocking tight end.
So we were like, we've got 4 wideouts masquerading as tight ends, and then we've got the one guy who will block. So
yeah, you got a lineman so you don't actually have a tight end, is what you're saying.
I guess. I mean, I'm waiting for clarification so I don't look like an idiot tonight. If I look like an idiot this morning, I'll say, "Oh, it was 8 in the morning. It's not my fault. Coffee hadn't kicked in." But I don't know many teams that carry 5 tight ends. I thought 4 was a lot, and we had one of our tight ends actually enter the transfer portal and then come back. So to make our 2 returning ones. Yeah. And then we had 2 at the combine. Talk about combine stuff later. Yep. 2 at the combine. 1 was, like I said, Raj's favorite. 1 entered transfer portal, came back, and then we recruited 2 more. And we like the 2 that are coming in, like a lot. And the landscape of college football is now. Freshmen play a lot more now than like ever before.
Well, and they're definitely going to, because they're shortening the rosters. Right. So instead of having these huge rosters, it's limited to 150 now?
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, if you're on the team, you're probably going to play.
Yeah. Yep. And that, and plus the transfer portal's killed everyone's depth too. So guys get up the charts a lot quicker.
Hey,
Raj, did I get credit, Raj, for giving you the correct time for the show starting this morning?
It was actually a little bit early.
Yeah. Well, so Raj had his secretary text me to make sure the show was still going on this morning.
I just figure he had the timer on the post, so he's actually still asleep, and it just
in his defense, he's got twins, so he never gets to sleep until
that's
right. he's always up at least, so I'll give him credit for that. Raj, the most favorite Ragsdale brother, as I found out last night. Out of the,
that's funny because I know you were tilting the tables your way. You still lost. If you cheat and lose, man.
First off, there's no cheating on our debates. It's an independent third-party system. I can't help that Raj keeps losing. I don't feel like that's my fault.
What are you talking about? It's exactly your fault. You're playing him. Man, that is hilarious. So, how did you just run a poll during the show? Then is that how that?
No, it was kind of like So when we first started the show, you've been on the show. We asked some uncomfortable questions at the end.
Sure.
The first 15 times we asked those uncomfortable questions, it had to be like 13-2 in Raj's favor. So it's already like going bad. And then one of the guys who's actually picked my side is quizzing people in the chat. And
so that's not helping your cause at all.
It's not helping my cause. And they're like, all right, I pick Raj. One girl who's only met Raj like once picks Raj. And I'm like, you come over to my house every other weekend with your husband and hang out, and you're picking Raj. I'm like, how are these things happening? So
by default, I have to pick him next time anyway, right? Just because of this segment.
Thanks, Bo. Appreciate you. This is why I keep my ego in my sock drawer upstairs and don't carry it around with me.
It's fantastic. So I don't know if you caught, I don't know how much of the combine you caught, but there were a couple of guys that definitely stood out, especially when it came to the 40s. I don't put a lot of stock in the combine. Like, a lot of people love the combine. They're like, oh, the combine's amazing. And obviously if I was credentialed to go, I'd go.
Right.
But at the same time, you better look awesome with no pads, no defense. Like, you're literally running drills.
Yeah.
In a dome. Like, I mean, come on, man. Like, you better look great.
Yeah.
I mean,
for our show, I watched, and I hate, like, it always, Raj and I we talked about the combine last night, right? Mm-hmm. But for Alabama, your combine usually starts with one guy. It's always Milroe, right? Quarterbacks get all the pub. So I watched all of his throws before our show, like, clipped up or whatever. The one thing that is funny that I do give the guys that has been mentioned before that I always kind of laughed off until I actually watched it is you are throwing to a bunch of guys you don't know. And I'm watching like 3 guys run the same route, all run, slightly different. So I get that part.
Sure.
But to your point is like, it wasn't sharp like I would think, would run you up the draft board, and
yeah,
that was a problem. So I don't want to make it all about him, but that's, like, just to be fair, the part of the combine I watched more was obviously Alabama players. And
yeah, well, I mean, so the thing about that is, like, Howard, right? He was terrible. In fact, I probably even have that clip. Let me. Pretty sure. I think I got it prepped. I just got to find it. So Will Howard, quarterback, had a terrible had a terrible day, and the thing about it is I could get with what you said if. Oh, maybe it didn't download. If you didn't have other quarterbacks throwing in the same group to the same guys, right? Like, if it was just a one-off, you're out there. Okay, cool. But you're grouped together with other quarterbacks, which means that's not quite really how that works, right? Like, it highlights the fact that you were having a bad day. Yeah. So,
I mean, it was bad, so bad. I guess Shedeur Sanders even came to his defense. So
yes,
I will say this: I do see now a whole nother reason why the top quarterbacks don't throw at the combine either, because it just seems like
it can only hurt
it can
only hurt your stuff.
Yeah,
right. And that's something we've talked about on the show before. Like, if you're a top 10 guy, all it does there's no upside to throwing.
Yeah, definitely.
So this was and transfer portal and how that's impacted college football. For me, on the scouting side of things, the realignment with the Big Ten and the SEC, I've never seen more good on good with these players as you're studying them, get ready for the season. Did you notice that? I mean,
tell you what, guys, too. My other son actually played at K-State, so Will Howard at K-State before he moved over to Ohio State. I think
he's missing dudes by 4 or 5 yards.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's one thing if your timing is a little bit off and, it's like brushing off the hands or, something like that. I can get with that. But, I mean, you're missing him by yards. So, how's it going, Win?
What's up, Win? How are you doing this morning?
Man, a comp for Will Howard?
I mean, I just don't think Will Howard was anything great. He had
was a
great
D3 guy
weapons
anyway.
and enough mobility to make Notre Dame pay. You know, that's really where he was. But it's like, I mean, his arm strength looks average. You know, there was just nothing great about him from K-State to Ohio State, I don't think. You know, and like to Shedeur Sanders' credit, the man won a natty. I'm not gonna hate on him, but when you're talking college to go to the next level, I don't.
No, and he's a super likable guy.
Right.
I mean, like, there's nothing on that end at all.
Yeah.
But I mean, man, if there was ever a combine that hurt your stock, it was that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
because like you said, you can't be, and like I said, to Milroe's credit, when he missed, it was still hitting guys. At least it was close. You know what I mean?
Thing.
So,
like, even if your throws aren't hitting the guys square in the hands, they're guys you've never thrown to. Cool, right? Like if it's in the window, because that at least shows that you're gauging the speed. Right. Like it may not be quite right, but you're there.
Yeah.
But when you're missing dudes behind him by, he can't even get a hand on the ball, or one where even if he fully laid out, it's fingertips at best, a streak down the field where literally you're throwing a punt. Like let the guy run underneath it and you still overthrow him by 5 yards. I mean, it just, that's a rough day like that. The good thing for him is he was probably a day 3 guy anyway.
Right.
Which means, is he really going to move? Probably not. But I mean, Will Howard looks like he's going to be one of those
career backup kind of guys.
Yeah. Right. Like he's probably going to be that. And
Rod, maybe like a Cooper Rush.
Yeah. Probably something like that. I could get with that. I could go with Cooper Rush.
I'm trying to think about if I've seen Cooper run any. That was my thing with Will Howard. He ran enough against Notre Dame.
Yeah.
But everything else seemed kind of average. But I think if you surround him with good talent or put him in a good system and he's there for years and has to win you a couple games, that's kind of where I'm going. So maybe not the exact thing, but like that situation for sure. And I'm trying to think if I've ever seen Cooper.
That's kind of what I thought you meant was situationally.
Yeah.
Like he would be that career backup guy.
Yeah.
Athletically, obviously they're different. But
how's a guy named Cooper Rush not able to rush? That doesn't make sense though. What is this?
Yeah, no, he rushes right into the defense like this.
That's it. It's like I'm done. I'm good. But yeah, that's just he's not moving the needle. So.
Well, and so then there was also the offensive tackle from Oregon, Connor Lee, that we talked about. He looked so bad at the Senior Bowl, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then he had a really good combine.
Right.
And, the Senior Bowl had him kind of sliding on people's draft boards. And now I'm hearing that his combine is elevating him back up the board a bit. That part seems crazy to me.
Yes.
Because you should look awesome in the combine, especially in individual drills.
Yes.
If you're a receiver and you're not catching balls because they're thrown away from you, okay, like you can look bad in that moment. That's fine. Other people are controlling that. If you're a lineman, there's literally foot speed drills and a 40.
Right.
You should.
And jumping for some reason.
And jumping. Yeah. I mean, if you're on the defensive side, for sure. Like I get it. But on the offensive side, I don't want you jumping in front of me a whole lot.
No.
But,
that's why I don't get that one. So
I think it's just like a standardized, athleticism test more than
like they bought an athletic test from off Amazon and these.
Exactly. They're like, there's boxes on this page. We're filling them all. Like, pretty much. I think that the broad jump really shows, explosiveness. Right. So, I mean, I actually kind of get it, but the box jump doesn't, the vertical probably doesn't make a ton of sense for that position, but I think it again shows how explosive you can be.
Right.
But I do like him running the 40 though. That's definitely definitely a good thing. Sup, Chad? And why I say that is you end up with guys like this right here, who is he's an offensive lineman. He's technically a tackle, although once he gets to the NFL, I would bet he moves into the guard position. He's got a little bit shorter wingspan, which usually means you get moved inside. But at 6'6", 319, runs a 4.98.
Get out. How
Yeah,
that translates.
There you go. A little better.
Looks better on the board, right?
Yep.
Imagine being a
The
corner.
176.
You got a
It's
pulling
nice
guard
round of
running a
applause.
4.98 at 319.
Yeah.
I mean, talk about just coming to clean you up.
Yeah. And he's been great for LSU and playing against great competition.
Yeah.
And so it's funny when you get to the combine and, hey, we've measured and we don't think you're good at your position anymore. And if I'm him, I'm like, so my tape, like none of that. No, sorry.
I mean, I agree with you mostly, with the exception of if your wingspan is short, you probably will have a hard time against bigger DNs,
Right.
right? And so that's where these guys end up getting moved inside. I mean, you may have the best technique ever, but if you got a guy, an edge that's really fast, you may not quite be able to get enough on him, right? And we're only talking about, 2 inches.
Right.
So it's not like it's a crazy number or anything like that. I mean, he's right there. So he could potentially stay in that tackle spot.
Right.
But if we watch the NFL, the way his numbers hit sure makes it look like they'll move him inside.
Yeah.
I could be wrong, but historically that just seems to be a thing.
Yeah. No, I agree because that's been all the talk since the measurables came out. And I think that was before he actually ran the 40. Oh, it's great. I love the 40 times. Like, yeah, it's real athletic, played really well, but it always comes back to the measurables every time you talk about Campbell. So it seems like the move is happening.
I mean, probably. Unless the team really just needs a tackle.
Yeah.
Then, and he falls to him because, again, he's fast. All of his numbers look great. It's just some of the measurables that they're like, But speaking of that, how did your boy Milroe end up with 3/4 an inch bigger hands between the Senior Bowl and the Combine?
I was reading and people were trying to explain it, and there's drills you can do to stretch, and there's stuff you can get. Yeah, that's what I was like. You guys are out. And then finally one of them said, well, but also like maybe one guy measured wrong and the other guy measured different. I said, okay, there's the actual explanation, because otherwise nothing else you're saying.
Like one of those guys didn't know how to read a tape measure.
Basically.
Like,
just
let's just say that.
And my favorite part about it was because it was before he threw. That's what helped solidify. Like, oh, he's not going to be sliding down the draft boards. His hands grew. I think he's in that mark now where he's going to be okay.
His hands grew.
I was like,
you know how much his hands would hurt if they grew 3/4 an inch in 3 weeks.
I mean,
talk about growing pains being a very real thing.
Yes.
Like for your bones to just be like, pow, man.
That's why I love the combine, man. All the stuff that comes out and all the measured stuff and whatever. And I'm just like, he's still the same guy. Like whatever you think about those couple inches or whatever, it's still the same guy. He still throws the same. He's still everything you thought about him going into the combine, you think about him coming out of the combine. If that one measurement was your make or break, then you're probably going to be disappointed anyway. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I mean, I get the hand measurement end of it. And the only reason I say that is as a Seahawk fan, we had guys like Dave Craig and Rick Meyer who fumbled a lot. Right. Because they had smaller hands. And so, I mean, I get the fascination with it, but there's a funny thing, right? Usually when you fumble, it's because the ball's out here. And there's this really cool technique where you just do this, and it's so much harder, even if you have small hands.
I think most Alabama fans will tell you Milroe didn't fumble really much on the run.
Yeah.
He fumbled getting hit, and I thought it was more to do with lack of pocket awareness than anything else. So
Well, I mean, that's when you fumble anyway,
yeah.
right? Like, it's very rare that the ball is tucked in tight and it comes out. I mean, usually if it happens, it's even if you had it tucked in, it's because you moved your arm up or whatever, and it allows somebody to come in. Now, if there's a perfect aimed punch, sure, it can happen, but it doesn't happen a lot.
Yep.
Yes, please hit that like button. But yeah, so I don't know. It's always interesting, and it's always interesting to see the hype. That's like the hype around pro days. Pro days are probably the dumbest thing I can think of.
I love it.
Like, okay, there's no defense. There's no pressure. You're throwing to guys that you choreographed for probably the entire week leading up, right? And it's like, oh, he looked so good in his pro day. It's like, yeah, no kidding.
Yeah, it was like watching a play.
Right? Like, my buddy been throwing the ball all week. Guess what? I know exactly where he's gonna be.
Yeah,
I mean,
Whereas the combine, it was all over the place. My pro day, I can do blindfolded. Like literally, just say, "Hey, we're running 3. Okay, here's 3.
Yeah,
we're running
exactly.
route 4. We're running 4.
Oh, gotcha. But yeah, no, but it's funny. I mean, because when you look at guys like Anthony Richardson last year, right? His pro day was huge for him because they're like, oh, look at this arm strength. It's like, I mean, yeah, if you got all day, like a bunch of these guys can uncork some monster balls.
Right.
I mean, you're not going to have 5 seconds to wind up and throw that thing.
Right. And look at what's happened because of that. But then this was also a guy, though, that didn't have many starts in college.
Yes.
And so people put way too much into his pro day. And it's like you said, so we're watching the combine. I know it's different, but we're watching the combine throws from Milroe last night, and my wife goes, "Why don't they just have some guys run at him and do like this so we can get a little bit more realistic as far as?" And that's what I think of when you say that with the pro day. Yeah, I'm just sitting back there, I'm chilling, I'm throwing the guys I know. It's got to be the most relaxed atmosphere, aside from 20, 30 guys watching you and taking notes. But after, outside of that, yeah, I'm good. Just throw the Herb over here, and I'm gonna throw the Raj, and Bo's gonna run this out, and all right, we're good,
Right? You look so good. It's like, yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm more worried if you look bad at your pro day.
Right? Like, I can throw dimes with nobody in front of me.
Yes. Yes.
I mean, if nothing else, because you did this, made me think of those wind guys.
Yeah. Right? Just throw a couple of them out there.
Yeah, right? Just throw a couple out on a Roomba so they're just kind of like roaming around the field. Yeah.
Well,
No, I'm with you. The pro day thing, am I still going to watch it? Yeah, of course. But do I put a lot of stock in it? No. I mean, I put way more stock in things like the Senior Bowl, the Shrine Bowl, East West, all of that, right? Because they're all-star games.
Yeah.
You're going against real talent.
Yeah.
And, I mean, because even when you're watching film during the year, how many good schools are you actually playing? Like 4 or 5, maybe, right? Like, if you play half your schedule of good schools, that's listed as one of the toughest schedules in football. It's like, oh, okay. Yeah, I mean, half of your schedule was decent.
Yeah.
Good job.
Yep. So every other week it was tough for you. We got it. Yeah.
So it's, so you get into those situations. You got new coaching, new players. Even if you don't look great, then all of a sudden you're just like, okay, well, but how are you picking up the information? Right. It's like, okay, yeah, you weren't quite on target. You weren't able to, sync up timing wise, whatever. There's a little more leeway there, but it's like, okay, well, but when you're watching the tape, how are you seeing the defense, and how were you, adjusting things, stuff like that? Like you don't have to look amazing in those games to have a good day, but you can have a bad day and it can look real bad.
Right. And that was ours, man. That when it was bad for Milroe, it was really, really bad. So I always wondered like that, and then a combination of how bad it's gone or how up and down it's gone with Anthony Richardson and that being Milroe's comp, I think is what also helps. People are like, okay, we can't draft him like we did Richardson and just throw him out there. Like, we have to draft him later. And even it's interesting when you watch the combine, and because it's all cut up from the guy's throws, the conversations never, very rarely match the guys on the field because they're just talking about whatever. But there was one little bit in there where they happened to match up, and they were talking about his lack of footwork. And one guy said, like, he does not need to start next year. And I think that's the general consensus on him. He does not need to see the field.
He really doesn't, but he also needs to go somewhere that actually wants to develop quarterbacks.
Thank you.
So, and there's not a lot of teams that do that.
Right. Well, a lot of regimes aren't going to be around for 3 years if they're already bad. So it's kind of like tough to figure out.
The thing that's funny is, like, I wouldn't want him here, but he would benefit from a program like Seattle that historically has a really good, talent creating team, right? Yeah. Like they are really good at cultivating talent. And there's other ones around the league for sure. I mean, obviously the Eagles, if you are an offensive lineman, their offensive line coach is off the charts, right? Yeah. I mean, every time they lose guys, they just plug someone else in and they work.
Right.
So, all of a sudden that's not your talent it's not like you're hitting home runs talent wise every time someone comes to your team. Like that is coaching.
Right.
So, so yeah, I mean, he would benefit from going to a team that has a really good quarterback development program. Right. And there's just not a lot of them. The good thing is he's going to be a later round pick. So he might end up in one of those.
Yeah.
It's not going to bring it up. There we go. The pro days aren't all the same day. So, in fact, I don't even know when they are yet.
Yeah. Well, I see, like, they've started on the 3rd with, like, a couple smaller schools, Ball State, Miami. Like, if you just type in pro days, you'll just see, like, a list. But it's like Bo saying, some people haven't announced theirs.
Yep.
I saw Alabama's on here. Ours is March 19th.
Oh, okay.
But they're not even just all weekends, it looks like, because I see the 18th, 19th, 20th, 21st. So
yeah, I was gonna say, I think there's like a Thursday in there.
Yeah, there's just
Now
you have to look up your specific school and just see when it is. So
and they're never really a big thing. So there's usually, there's a handful of scouts at them. Like it's not even a lot of times not even all the teams show up.
Oh, definitely not. Yeah.
I mean, there will be a handful of scouts at a pro day. They're televised, but I mean, there's nothing, and they're only televised for like big prospects. There's a bunch of these pro days you won't even get to watch.
Yeah.
So, or there's a school that has one person coming out and they'll actually get invited to somebody else's pro day because their school isn't big enough to have a pro day. Right. Or they only have the one guy and they're not putting it on for one guy.
Yeah. To be honest, I'm surprised when I'm looking at the list and the first one on here is Ball State and Miami of Ohio. And I was like, definitely missing something if both those two schools are having a pro day.
Right? Like there must be some talent I wasn't aware of.
Yeah.
I mean, I might have to go back and check that out.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm with you. I feel like maybe I missed some important information.
Yeah. No, you're right. And I want to say 90% of the time when we talk about a pro day, we talk about a quarterback's pro day and nobody else, like no other position. So,
well, usually the other positions are kind of brought into a quarterback's pro day anyway.
Right.
I mean, the only guys that get any TV time are the quarterbacks anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Like you'll never see a lineman pro day get any media coverage at all. In fact, you probably won't even hear about it.
Right.
I mean, unless somebody gets hurt like that's about the only time you'll hear about it. Be like, oh yeah, this guy from this school was doing his pro day and tore his ACL. And it's like, oh, okay, well that'll end up being news. Yeah. And Milroe can absolutely just fall flat on his face. And they're like, oh yeah, he had a little bit of a rough pro day, but whatever. And like, yeah. So
right.
it's, it's ridiculous.
Yeah. Well, to be fair though, throwing is probably the most, TV ready thing to show. The guy throwing and maybe the guy catching, but everything else, it's like, what else are you going to do? Have the lineman run another 40 at his pro day or fake block somebody at his pro day? It's like the rest of this stuff, you can't televise that. Like, who's watching?
No fans want to see your kick block.
Yeah,
Right? Like the footwork may be there. It may be everything it's supposed to be, but nobody's trying to watch that.
No.
Unless you are, a football nerd like me, like I'll watch that. I'll be
Right.
like, oh yeah, no, that was good technique right there. We could use that. But by and large, people would be like scrolling through and they're like, okay, kick block. I don't even know what that is. ESPN the Ocho cornhole. Here we go. Like,
There you go. I feel like you just watched me do that. Like, what? It was like describing me to a T.
No, I mean, and that would be most fans, right? Is they're just like, I don't even know what they're doing right now. It was funny because I was filming some of that, and I realized, like, as I was filming, I'm like, okay, cool, I like that. I was like, this film is never gonna see the internet, right? Like that film will be for me,
Right.
because if I put it on there, it'll be like 1 person viewed and thumbs down.
You're like, I mean, yeah, that's fair.
But there was some good stuff that did happen though, and one of them was this right here, absolutely blazing as a corner.
There he goes. And he does it.
That's got to be a great feeling. Not only to run fast, but when you can hear the audible oohs and ahs from the crowd, is that sub 4.3 time flashes up on the screen. I love it.
About consistency. That is 0.01 between the 2 runs.
Yeah.
Right? So that's something, if you're a team, I mean, obviously 4.29 speed's ridiculous anyway, but if you're looking at that as a team, you're like, okay, like he runs that.
Right.
Because not only were you able to do it, but you were able to do it twice.
Right.
And, the only question you end up with there is, does he, because of his speed, does he allow himself to be out of position?
Right. And just
Right.
play catch up. Yeah.
Exactly. Well, or does he over pursue? Can you beat him with a double move? Because
Oh, I got
he's a little
you.
too far into the coverage. So there will be things to look at, but I mean, 4.29 speed. You can coach everything else. Can't coach
Right.
speed, right?
Right.
So that's one of those like 4.29. Yeah, let's do that.
Yes. Yes. We'll figure the rest out. We got you. So.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, there's a couple of guys that I did find interesting, though. There's a safety out of South Carolina, Nick Emimori,
Yep.
runs a 4.38, so solid, right? Solid 40 time. 6'3", 225, right? So
Yep.
a big safety, 43 vertical.
Vertical. Yep.
And
11.6.
11.6 broad jump. And
Yep.
so they were comparing him to DK's numbers at the combine, and they were like spot on across the board. The part that I was interested about, though, is with that size and speed, they say he likes to hit more like Cam.
Yep.
And I'm like, oh, okay, go get that dude. Like, let's hit people.
Yes. Yes.
Like, if you're a safety, let's go blow somebody up.
It's funny because the first article I popped up about combine stuff has him as like their top 10 winners at the combine. He's number 1. And they're like, because of all those those traits, plus being able to hit, they're like, we're not just going to lock him in at safety. He'll be able to play a lot of different roles for you, and you'll be able to move him around a little bit. So, no, huge winner. I'm happy he's gone from South Carolina because they gave us fits last year. So, hey, go be great, man. Go be great. Congrats. Definitely root for you to do well out there. But yeah, no, that was insane. His workout is just insane.
Yeah,
You said his size and doing all that. That's crazy.
Well, that's the biggest part, right? Is at that size, you're that fast. That's
Yes.
awesome. That's
Yes.
awesome.
Yes.
The other guy that was definitely he definitely didn't win the combine. I forget his name offhand. He's a tiny dude. He's 158 pounds, and hey, good on him for getting to the combine.
Not
but
receiver, is a receiver
he was a
or
receiver.
the running back, not Tez Johnson, right? Or
that sounds right. He ran like a 4.45, and they said that was the slowest 40 time for anybody under 170 pounds ever. That's rough.
Yes. Yes. I mean, because if you're going to be that size, you got to do everything else well, like to survive. So,
Well, and if you're going to be that size, you have to be fast.
yes.
Because otherwise,
Like, what else are you doing?
Murdered. Because this corner that's 6'3", 225 that can outrun you is going to end your life out there on the field.
Yes. The very, very first time you touch it. Well, rest in peace. You're doing well.
You better be doing that Tyler Lockett catch the ball and go to the ground thing.
Did you say he ran a 4.5?
No, he ran a 4.45.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah, it was like
Tez
4.45, 4.43, something like that.
Tez Johnson came in at 154 and ran a 4.5. And people are like, again, if you're going to be one of the lightest, smallest people here, I need you blazing around, because otherwise it doesn't make much sense at all. So
no, it doesn't make any sense. Yeah, like if you're going to be small and slow, like what are we doing?
yeah, I know. Which also tells you why, like, some of these guys are very productive in college. It just tells you the difference between like college and NFL and how that jump is, because it's kind of like you said, in college, you're going to get 5 good teams, right? And now those 5 good teams that you play, how many of them have pro corners, pro linebackers?
Yep.
The list just keeps getting smaller and smaller.
I mean, I always look at it as on your best teams, you got 4 or 5 NFL guys on the best teams, right? Yeah. And you're going to encounter 4 or 5 of those a year.
Right.
You get to the NFL, the 53rd man is an All-American at somebody's school.
Yep.
So it's just like, okay, this is not apples to apples.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
it's a reason why I always cautioned running quarterbacks about continuing to run in the NFL. I'm like, the third linebacker off the bench can still clean you up and still runs decently enough to track you. Like the guys that we're like, oh man, he's a scrub. Yeah, he's a scrub, but he's a scrub that's better than still 90% of the nation. You know what I mean? So I don't think people understand. What is it they always say? Like, especially NBA always happens. Guy gets from college to NBA. What's the first thing they say? I had to get used to the speed of the game. Yep. First guy in the NFL, I had to get used to the speed of everything just happened so much quicker. Yeah, because all, like you just said, all these guys were All-Americans. Even that guy you didn't like, who's maybe not a fit at that position, was still great in college. So,
I mean, you got offensive tackles running a 4.98 at 320.
Yes.
Like,
how
often do you run into that in college?
Right.
Once.
Yeah.
One time.
Because you look across most lines and you're like, all right, that guy's NFL, that guy's future accountant, that guy is opening a gym. You know what I mean? There's not, oh yeah, NFL. Yeah, no. So,
yeah.
And the days of getting a stack like that are kind of over, because people move around so much now. So now you really don't know, the talent is even more spread out than ever before. So.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, the last like everybody's going to the NFL team was Tebow's Gators. That was everyone's headed to the NFL.
Yeah. Well, I will say Alabama and LSU, both their championship teams, they were pretty stacked. Yeah, and Georgia.
Defense. Their whole defense went.
Yeah, and the Eagles took half of them.
Exactly. And won a ring.
Yeah, and won a ring. Can't blame them. So. I did have one other, and you'll probably know more about this switch. One of our guys, Tyler Booker, had a terrible combine, measurables-wise. He's a guard. Okay. He was one of 5 people asked to stay behind in the combine and work out at center. So that was interesting to me because I feel like that's a huge change. I mean, I guess just knowing what I know about the position and line calls and snapping all of a sudden. So I thought that was an interesting one to kind of throw, especially for a guy whose combine didn't go well, as far as all the measurables go. So it was interesting. He was one of the people asked to stay behind for that.
That actually makes some sense, though.
Okay. And that's why I said you'll know more about this part than me for sure.
Well, because the center is somewhat protected
at
the beginning of the play.
Right.
And if you had a shorter wingspan, you have your guards right on you. Right. So you're not generally having to reach way out to get somebody. Right. Like you're the one that's dictating the speed of the play. Right. You got the ball in your hand to start. So if you're snapping the ball, you know where you're going and you get that like 10th of a second head start to get to your spot. And there is, excuse me, there is a lack of centers.
Yeah.
Right? Like there's just not a lot of centers. So that actually does make some sense. If some scouts were like, hey, we don't necessarily like you for the window that you're in. We understand you're good at what you do, but you don't hit the number metrics that we want. But if you were a center, you can still provide that blocking ability. The measurables don't matter quite as much. But it also means that they liked his athleticism because he's got to be able to get out of a different type of stance. So, I wouldn't necessarily take it as a knock. I think it's taking it as you may have another avenue to get in.
Right. And I didn't take it as a knock necessarily. I just thought it was interesting because, like his 40-yard dash time was 28th among 29 linemen. The jumps didn't go well. And he was one of those when we were first hearing about the combine, they're like, oh, his stock is down. And then, you get asked to play, to me, was a premier position. For Alabama, our center decided to return for one more year. And we were like, yes, we'll figure out the rest of the stuff, So yeah. I just thought that was interesting.
It does make sense, too, if his speeds were slow.
Right, because
like,
he can't
if you're a tackle or you're a guard, there are sweeps and pulling situations that you have to be able to get across the field.
Right.
If you're slow, they don't want you doing that.
Right.
They're like,
the running back runs by you, is like,
yeah, exactly. It's like the play would have worked great if our lineman would have got there. Whereas the center is never the pulling guy, right? Like it's always a guard or a tackle, and then you have your center pushing straight up the field to try and get to the second level.
Right.
So that is, I don't mind that. I don't mind that.
Okay.
Speaking of funny situations, though, we have the Giants pop up, and so if you happens to see this, this is hilarious. This is a guy that knows he probably gets fired after this year.
Year, but looking back at the decision to let Saquon walk in free agency, how do you view that, and do you regret not resigning him?
Yeah, I'm happy for Saquon. Obviously went on to win the Super Bowl, and we wish him nothing but the best. Always going to evaluate all the decisions you make, and we were at a different place in our build, and again, love Saquon and wish him nothing but the best.
In a different spot in your build.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Yeah, dominant running back. Don't need that.
No, not at all. But let's play the quarterback who's not here anymore.
The most expensive running back ever.
Yes. Well worth it, though. Well worth it. So the Giants' problem now, man, is going to be they're going to push to get a middling quarterback to save their jobs.
Of course.
When like another bad year and a higher draft pick is much better for the long term. So you've got an organization that needs a long term, and you guys who in the short term need to keep their jobs. So yeah, this is not like when they were pushing for Matthew Stafford really hard. I was like, so what? You can get to 8 or 9 wins and a worse draft pick, and yeah. So basically,
100%.
Yeah.
If you play in New Jersey, your whole thing is you lose.
Yeah.
That's what you do.
Yes. But you make headlines every week and have great fodder for the rest of us because the Jets were a gold mine this year. So, we appreciate you. But, yeah, it's amazing that the Giants guys have survived this far. And then, like, you let your running back go and he goes to your immediate rival or one of and wins a Super Bowl the year he leaves you and has his best
one of the
best
best
year
in football history.
right.
It's his best for himself, but I mean, we're talking about a top 5 performance all time.
Yes, and a week away, 1 week out of breaking the actual record. So yeah, it's
in a league that doesn't run the ball.
yes.
So it's not even like it's, oh yeah, but I mean, there's an extra game and every team runs forever. It's like, no, like every team is trying not to even have a running back on the roster.
Yes. They're like, let's get 3 average running backs and we'll be fine. Play them as little as possible and we'll be fine.
Or it's a CMC where they're like, we understand that you're a running back, but you are a receiver.
Yes. We need you to do everything. So yes. How well do you kick? Yeah, because if we're gonna pay you, we want everything out of you. So yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I'm surprised the Giants guys still have their jobs.
That's the part that I don't get is how do you not get fired? That was like Eberflus last year.
Yeah.
Or Dennis Allen, right? You're just like, how did you guys keep your job? Like you had good, competent coaches get fired. And Eberflus and Dennis Allen and now Dable. How do you, I don't understand. I mean, how are you that bad at your job?
Yeah.
And somehow they're like, you know what? That's our guy. Like, how many pictures do you have of your GM?
Of everybody, yes. Well, the GM I thought should have been fired too. So I guess maybe they got pictures. I don't know. They've got pictures of the owner, which I mean, owner's got enough money to get. I have no idea, but I'm trying to figure out what's supposed to happen in the next year to let you think they deserve another year after that. And, you know, we got into a discussion, or I got fussed at about saying it, but he was like, they haven't had a chance to pick their own quarterback. And I'm like, but these are the guys who decided to pay Daniel Jones. Like, does that not go on your resume? Hey, we've seen enough from the 1 year versus the other 3 years that he played badly. Let's pay him. That's one of your decisions. Like, that was you picking your quarterback. So, I don't know.
Yeah. No, it's man, I got nothing. Like
I can't defend him.
Like it just doesn't make any sense. Doesn't make any sense at all. Yeah, I don't know. But we do have some changes in the NFL coming up. And so they officially get 30 for 30. 30 games, 30 points. Is that what that is?
No, the ESPN 30 for 30 stuff. He's saying he wants a documentary on how Joe Sheen keeps it. Nico Harrison's the one that traded Luka. So he wants to know how these guys are keeping their jobs after historically.
No. That's what I mean.
Okay.
For showing, it's like 30 games, there's 30 points scored in those 30
yeah.
But so the two big changes that are being voted on March 30th, I believe, is when the competition committee puts those votes in, is the eye in the sky for the first down marker. So the chain gang will be all but obsolete. They'll still be on the field in case something happens, but it's going to be the second camera, right? So they've always had the one for years now. Now there's a second one that's up above that tracks the ball all the time. And so that's how they're doing their first down markers. Okay. There's also a chip in the ball so they can GPS locate it. Yeah. But
we're going to call that one the Josh Allen rule.
Yes, 100%. And I'm still trying to figure out how it is they exactly figure out which direction the ball was pointed. Right. Because that could be the difference at, 4.5 inches.
Right.
So that one's going to be kind of interesting. The other one, also a Josh Allen rule, is the regular season overtime rules might be getting a switch up.
Right.
Where everyone gets a shot, whether you score a touchdown or not. Everybody gets to possess the ball, just like they started doing in the playoffs.
Right.
And extending the overtime period from 10 minutes to 15 so that you don't have a situation where Kansas City runs 8.5 minutes off and you only get a minute and a half to respond.
Right.
So they're going to make it a full length quarter, which I don't know why it wasn't anyway.
Yeah, that was weird.
It was just kind of a strange thing. But so they're talking about making it a full length 15-minute quarter. And even if you score a touchdown first, the other team still gets to possess.
Right.
I like that addition. Like, if you're going to make it so it's not sudden death, then make it so it's not sudden death.
Right.
Or just leave it how it was.
Right.
I mean, I didn't mind when they got rid of if you kick a field goal, the game was over. Like, it made sense back in the day because field goals were harder to hit. That the hash marks were further apart. So you didn't have that, like, third downs used to literally be a dive play to the middle so that your kicker had a better shot. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So then they moved the hash marks into the width of the goal line or the goalposts. And now you got kickers that are hitting from 60 plus. So, all of a sudden you receive that kickoff, you only have to make 20 yards and you win the game. I get not letting the game end that way anymore. But soon as they did if you run it back, then the other team should get it. And it's like, I mean, I don't know, maybe your special teams shouldn't suck. So, I mean,
Just
anything you can do it, just do it, right?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Well, I think a lot of these, when they started these rules, it was like, oh, let's shorten up the overtime. We don't want to put more on their bodies. But then they added another game anyway. I was like, so you guys don't honestly care about that. Let's be clear. And
yeah, they only do safety things when they get sued.
Right.
I mean, that's like when car companies have a recall. It's like, well, yeah, because the lawsuits are now becoming more expensive than just fixing the problem. Otherwise, if there's such a small number, they're like, we'll just eat the lawsuits. It won't matter because it's cheaper than bringing all these cars back. So as soon as cars start getting a recall, it's because they're getting sued a lot.
Yeah. We had a number and we've surpassed the number, so now we care about you guys. That's basically what we're saying. So, it has nothing
to do with safety in either location. It has to do with money.
Yeah. And that's where the NFL is too. Because a lot of these don't make. And you're reading this as like only 16 overtime games last year anyway. So there's less than one. Well, I guess about one a week. So I'm like, it's not like they're outrageous amounts of overtime games. Yeah. So just make it to where each team gets it. It'll be more entertaining when it actually happens. And I don't get it. Thank you, Josh Allen, for changing the game. We appreciate you.
Yeah, like, people are watching the whole game. It's not like it's, baseball or soccer or something where people are like, yeah, I mean, whatever. Like, it's football. So you get an extra quarter. What's actually happening with that fan base? They're like, oh, there's more football. Cool. Yeah, another beer.
Yeah. I know. You have an extremely watchable sport. We'll be there for the whole thing.
Yeah, exactly. So, plus the games matter, right? Like, it's not like basketball or baseball where there's a million games. So even if you just happen to miss 20 games, nothing really changed.
Right.
Like, your team's still in it. Like,
No, you're absolutely right. There's a reason why the threshold for NBA games is like 65. You can miss 17 games and still get an award because we're just like, those 65 is what really were important to us, not the full 82. We're good.
Yeah, well, and I mean, especially with the NBA, because I mean, half the league gets in the playoffs.
Yeah.
So you don't even have to be good. I mean, that final spot gets won with a losing record a lot.
Yep.
I mean,
the Bulls have made a habit, like that's their spot. Yeah, we're going to make the play-in every year. So we're not going to have a great roster. We're not going to make any great changes. We're going to slide right here into 9 and 10 spot every single year.
Yep.
We're happy with that.
Yeah. And occasionally you're going to win that and get into the playoffs and then get smoked in the first round.
Yeah.
But we were in the playoffs.
Yeah. Well, half the times they lose the second game and don't even make it to the official playoffs. They don't even make it out of the play-in. So it's
that's what I mean. It's like sometimes they accidentally move on.
God, yeah. I was not prepared for this. What do you mean we got to play more games?
Right. I already had my tickets booked. Like, my toes were already in the sand.
Oh man.
So the let's see here. What do we got time wise? Okay. We'll do it real quick. Pete Rose may be coming off the banned list to finally get into the Hall of Fame. Worst kept secret ever.
Yeah.
Right. Like they were never going to let it happen while he was alive.
Right.
But you knew that they were going to find a way to let the all-time hits leader in after the fact.
Yeah.
Right. And so, he passes away and here we are. Right.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, we're talking about it. It's like, you guys are going to do it. Like,
yeah.
Who are we lying?
It feels like the right thing at this point. Didn't he even say that too? I think I read that in an article where that was one of his last statements somewhere. And there's like, after I die is when they'll let me in the Hall of Fame. So I feel like he knew it too as well. And then the president trying to pardon him too, and like everybody's just like, all right, it's time, let's go. He's gone. The grudge is gone. Just let him in.
Well, that's the thing. I think more than anything, they just want to not talk about it anymore.
Right.
Right. And the thing that's funny is the league gave him an opportunity to be able to get in. But every time there was an opportunity, he was a jerk about it.
Right.
And they're just like, no. Like we were entertaining it, and then you started to talk.
Right. Yeah. You not have representation somewhere that's just like,
right? Yeah, it's like those cartoons. You need that translator, that HR translator. It's like, dude, seriously, shut up.
I got this. Yeah. So no, like you said, worst kept secret. He's getting in. I mean, it's well overdue too. So let's just move on from it. And like you said, if you're baseball, you want to stop talking about this. So
well, that's probably the biggest thing about it, right? Is baseball doesn't care if you talk about Barry Bonds and Mark McGwire juicing up and all of that, right? Because that was still a highlight of baseball.
Oh yeah,
it brings up the basic home run derby between McGwire and Souza and all of that, right? I mean, they were just ripping the cover off the ball all year. But when you're talking about Pete Rose, you're not talking about the all-time hit leader. You mention it, but what you're talking about is how is he not in the Hall of Fame? And really, you're just talking about an indictment of the league,
right?
For a guy that was exceptional at, baseball. Again, a jerk, but
exceptional. Yeah.
So, I mean, your best way to not have to talk about him anymore ever is he passes away. You put him in the Hall, and that's it. Because it's not like anybody's going to get close to his hit record.
Right.
So it's not a comparison that's going to come up very often. So, I mean, if the league is really just done talking about Pete, let him in. And then it's over.
Yep. Maybe a year or two from now, somebody write an article about it. It'll get 2 minutes of fame, and then you'll move on again. So it'll be done.
Pretty much. Yeah. That being said, gets us to the top of the hour. If you are watching on YouTube, be sure to like and subscribe. If you're watching on Roku, stay tuned for the next hour. Otherwise, we got to get out of here because we're right up against it. Take it easy, everybody.
Introducing National Streaming Sports, live and on-demand sports talk programming that you can access 24/7. For the premier sports talk experience, tap into our Roku channel. Start your mornings with Mac and Jack covering all the weekend sports action. Then pour a cup and enjoy all the sports you can drink on the Coffee and Sports podcast. At midday, talk sports from east to west on the Coast to Coast podcast. Followed at night by some hot girl talk with Prim and Proper Sports featuring Sonia Pearson. Talk boxing on the Gloved Fist. Yankee fans tune in for Start Spreading the News. And there's more on the College Sports Huddle and Sports Scope with Robert Butler. There are 20 podcasts in all and 70 weekly shows giving us a 3.4-star viewer rating. To find us on Roku TV, search for National Streaming Sports on the Roku search bar. Click on the logo and you're in. National Streaming Sports.